The crystal wine glasses clinked as my mother raised her hand for attention, her diamond bracelet catching the light from the elaborate chandelier above our family's Christmas dinner table. I already knew what was coming. I'd seen that particular smile too many times before. Before we begin our meal, she announced to the gathered family members, "I want to address something important." Her eyes fixed on me, sitting at the far end of the table in my simple blue sweater and khakis. "James, darling, perhaps you should skip the annual New Year's retreat this year. It's becoming, well, embarrassing." My sister Victoria nodded in agreement, adjusting her Cartier watch. "The Aspen Lodge costs have gone up, Jimmy. It's really for successful family members only." I took a sip of water, noting how they'd strategically placed me at the far end of the table, away from the successful relatives. The irony would have been amusing if it wasn't so painful. They had no idea that I owned the entire resort where they held their precious retreat. "Mother," I started, but she cut me off with a wave of her manicured hand. "It's decided. You're simply too poor for this family's standard events. Perhaps focus on building your little computer repair business instead." My phone buzzed quietly in my pocket. A message from Diana, my executive assistant: "Urgent family financial reports complete. Call when possible." I excused myself from the table, ignoring the disapproving looks from my relatives. In the hallway of my parents' mansion, a house that was now, unknowingly to them, mortgaged to one of my subsidiary companies, I returned Diana's call. "What do you have?" I asked quietly. "Sir, the numbers are worse than we thought. Your family's total debt across all entities is approximately $47 million. The interest payments alone are crushing them. They've been taking new loans to pay old ones." I leaned against the wall, covered in expensive artwork that my mother had probably financed. "Break it down for me." "Your father's investment firm is underwater by $22 million. Your sister Victoria's fashion line has burned through $8 million in venture capital with no returns. Your brother Michael's hedge fund lost $12 million of clients' money last quarter. The remaining $5 million is personal debt, credit cards, mortgages, luxury purchases. And they have no idea I own most of their debt through various shell companies." "None, sir. The acquisitions were done discreetly through Summit Technologies' financial arm. They still think you run a small IT support business." I glanced back toward the dining room, where I could hear my family laughing about someone's new yacht purchase. "What's their timeline?" Without intervention, 3 months before the first major default, the holiday spending spree accelerated everything. "Keep monitoring. No action yet." I returned to the dining room, where my brother Michael was regaling everyone with stories about his latest successful trade. I knew from my reports that the trade had actually lost millions, but he was maintaining appearances, just like everyone else at this table. "Jimmy," my father called out, his voice carrying that familiar condescending tone, "perhaps it's time you let me handle your finances. A small business like yours needs proper management." I picked at my food, prepared by the chef they could no longer afford. "I'm doing fine, Dad." "Fine isn't good enough for this family," my mother interjected. "Look at your clothes, your car, that terrible apartment you live in. We raised you for better things." If only they knew that my terrible apartment was actually the entire top floor of the city's most exclusive building, or that my old car was deliberately chosen to maintain my cover. Summit Technologies, my little computer repair business, had quietly become one of the largest tech conglomerates in the country. "Speaking of better things," Victoria chimed in, "my fashion line is about to go international. The investors are thrilled." She shot me a smug look. "Some of us understand success." I checked my phone under the table. Diana had sent another message. "Victoria's fashion line creditors meeting tomorrow. They're planning to call in the loans." "That's wonderful, Victoria," I said quietly. "Very impressive." The dinner continued with its usual parade of status symbols and thinly veiled insults. My cousin showed off her new engagement ring, financed by credit cards. My uncle boasted about his latest real estate venture, which my reports showed was months away from bankruptcy. "James," my mother said as dessert was served, "I've been thinking. Perhaps it's time you moved back home. We can help you find a proper career, something befitting the family name." I set down my fork. "What exactly about my career embarrasses you, Mother?" "Oh, darling, fixing computers." "Really? Your siblings are running international businesses. Your cousins are in finance and real estate. And you're practically a handyman." The table erupted in poorly concealed laughter. I noticed my father checking his phone, probably seeing another warning from his creditors. My brother's forced smile couldn't hide the desperation in his eyes. He knew his hedge fund was collapsing. Mother, I said carefully, what would you consider successful? She brightened, always eager to lecture me about standards. Well, look at the family: real estate empires, fashion houses, investment firms, proper businesses with proper offices and proper appearances. My phone buzzed again. Diana, your call in 5 minutes with Tokyo Stock Exchange. Acquisition of tech rival approved. Excuse me, I said, standing. I have a business call. Business call? Victoria laughed. Did someone's printer break down? I walked to my father's study, closed the door and connected to the conference call. In 20 minutes I negotiated a $2.3 billion acquisition that would make headlines tomorrow. Summit Technologies would now control 40% of the global market in our sector. When I returned, they were discussing the New Year's retreat again. We've decided, my mother announced, that it's best if you skip all family events until you've improved your situation. We have a reputation to maintain. I sat down, studying their faces, all perfectly composed masks, hiding desperate financial realities. And what if I told you I could afford the retreat? Darling, my mother sighed, let's not embarrass ourselves. We know what IT support pays. My phone buzzed one final time. Diana, sir, your family's grace period expires at midnight. Should I proceed with the scheduled actions? I looked at my watch, 11:57 p.m. Mother, I said quietly, what would you say if I told you I could buy this house right now? Cash offer. My father laughed sharply. Don't be ridiculous, son. This house is worth $12 million, I finished. Currently mortgaged for $15 million to Summit Financial Holdings. I turned to my sister. Victoria, your fashion line has burned through $8 million in venture capital. The loans are being called in tomorrow. To my brother, Michael, your hedge fund lost $12 million last quarter. The SEC investigation starts next week. The room went deadly silent. How do you? My father started. Summit Financial Holdings is a subsidiary of Summit Technologies, I continued, my voice steady, as are the companies holding most of your debt. Summit Technologies, my little computer repair business, is now valued at $18.2 billion. My mother's wine glass slipped from her hand, shattering on the expensive tablecloth. That's impossible, Victoria whispered. I pulled out my phone and opened my banking app, sliding it across the table. The balance showed more zeros than they had ever seen. I'm not too poor for this family, I said quietly. I own this family's debt, all of it, every loan, every mortgage, every credit card, and at midnight, which is, I checked my watch, now all of it comes due. The grandfather clock in the hall began to chime midnight, as phones around the table started buzzing with notifications. Financial alerts, creditor notices, margin calls, the carefully constructed facade of family wealth, beginning to crumble in real time. Why? My mother asked, her voice barely a whisper. Because you never saw me, I replied. You were so busy maintaining appearances that you never noticed reality. While you were buying things you couldn't afford, I was building something real. You can't do this to us, Michael protested. We're family. Family. I stood up slowly. Family doesn't humiliate each other. Family doesn't exclude members for not meeting artificial standards. And family certainly doesn't gather on Christmas to tell someone they're too poor to belong. My father, always the negotiator, found his voice. Son, we can discuss this. Make arrangements. Yes, I said, we can, but not tonight. I walked to the door, then turned back. Oh, and about the New Year's retreat. I own the resort, have for 3 years. You've all been staying there on my dime, complaining about my presence in my own property. The silence was deafening. Diana will contact each of you tomorrow with appointment times. We'll discuss debt restructuring, payment plans, and new family dynamics. Until then, Merry Christmas. As I walked out to my deliberately modest car, my phone buzzed one last time. Diana, all financial actions executed. Family accounts frozen. Would you like me to proceed with phase 2? I looked back at the mansion, where lights were coming on in every room as my family began to realize the full extent of their situation. Yes, I replied. And Diana, send them all copies of their credit reports. It's time they faced reality. The drive home to my penthouse was quiet. Tomorrow would bring chaos, crying relatives, legal threats, attempts at manipulation. But tonight, for the first time in years, I felt truly free. My phone buzzed with family messages. Mother, please, we need to talk. Victoria, you can't do this. Michael, the SEC, please, I'll lose everything. Father, son, let's handle this like businessmen. I silenced the phone and took the private elevator to my penthouse. Tomorrow would be time enough for negotiations and reality checks. Tonight I would enjoy my Christmas dinner in peace, knowing that sometimes the best gift is the truth, even when it hurts. Diana's final message of the night. Sir, your mother is in the lobby, asking for access. Security protocol, standard procedure, I replied. No access without appointment. And Diana, Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas, Mr. Sullivan. Tomorrow's schedule is already full with family meetings. Should I order extra tissues? I smiled, looking out over the city lights. Better make it several boxes. Tomorrow is going to be interesting. The morning after Christmas dawned cold and clear. I sat in my office's conference room, watching the sun rise over the city, while Diana briefed me on the overnight developments. Your mother tried to access 4 different credit cards. All declined. Your father attempted to transfer funds from 3 offshore accounts. Frozen. Victoria called her fashion line's investors at 3 a.m. They've all received our documentation about the company's actual financial status. Michael, she paused, checking her tablet. Michael tried to book a flight to the Cayman Islands. We've flagged his passport. Who's first today? Your father. He's already in the lobby. Arrived 45 minutes early, wearing his best suit. Of course he was. Charles Sullivan never met a situation he couldn't try to negotiate his way out of. Send him up in 10 minutes. And Diana, activate full recording protocols. When my father walked in, I barely recognized him. Gone was the imperious man from last night's dinner. This version looked older, tired, his usual confident stride, replaced by an uncertain shuffle. Son, he started, reaching for a handshake I didn't offer. Let's discuss this reasonably. Sit down, Dad. I gestured to the chair across from me. Diana, please display the Sullivan Investment Group financials. The wall screen came to life, showing charts and figures that made my father wince. His company's true financial state was displayed in merciless detail. Years of bad investments, hidden losses, and mounting debt. These numbers, he said, adjusting his tie nervously, they don't tell the whole story. Actually, they do. You've lost $22 million of other people's money. The only reason you're not already under investigation is because my companies have been quietly covering your margins. He leaned forward, switching to his negotiator's voice. Jimmy, we can turn this around. With your resources and my experience. Your experience in losing money, I interrupted. Or your experience in hiding losses until they become catastrophic. I taught you everything you know about business. I pulled up another screen. Summit Technologies' growth chart over the past decade. No, Dad, you taught me everything I shouldn't do. While you were chasing status and appearances, I was building something real. What do you want? He asked finally, his voice small. Full financial transparency. You step down as CEO. The company gets restructured under Summit management. You take a consulting role, limited authority, supervised decisions. You're destroying my legacy. I'm saving it. You have 2 choices: accept my terms or face bankruptcy and probable criminal charges for financial misconduct. He stared at me for a long moment, seeing me clearly perhaps for the first time. When did you become so cold? Around the same time you taught me that family worth was measured in dollar signs. I slid a contract across the table. You have until noon to sign. After he left, Diana appeared with fresh coffee and the next appointment details. Victoria's here. She's already threatened to call 3 different lawyers. Show her in. My sister burst into the room in designer clothes that still had the tags on Inie's, probably intended to be returned after wearing, a trick I knew she'd been using to maintain appearances. Oh! You backstabbing little snake. She started, but I cut her off. Your fashion line has never made a profit, I stated flatly. You've burned through $8 million creating clothes nobody wants to buy. The only stores carrying your brand are ones you paid to stock it. That's how the fashion industry works. No, that's how failure works. I pulled up her company's books. You have 200 unsold units from every collection. Your Instagram followers are bought. Your celebrity endorsements are paid for with credit you don't have. She collapsed into a chair, her carefully maintained facade cracking. What am I supposed to do? Get a real job. Learn the business from the ground up. If you're serious about fashion, start as a buyer's assistant or production coordinator. Learn how it actually works instead of playing at being a designer. I can't start at the bottom. Do you know how embarrassing that would be? More embarrassing than bankruptcy. I showed her the next screen. Her personal credit report. You have $2.1 million in personal debt. Your cards are maxed out. You haven't made a real payment on anything in 6 months. Tears started smearing her expensive makeup. Mom and Dad said image was everything. That looking successful would make us successful. How's that working out? Diana brought in a box of tissues as Victoria's carefully constructed world continued to crumble. I'll need your company credit cards, store cards, and expense accounts closed by end of day. You can keep one personal card with a $5,000 limit. 5,000. I spend that much on lunch. Not anymore. I handed her another contract. Sign this and I'll clear your personal debt. But you get a fresh start on my terms. Real work, real learning, real consequences. The morning continued with similar meetings. Michael arrived with 2 lawyers, who quickly departed after seeing the SEC files we'd compiled. Cousins, aunts, and uncles filtered through, each confronting their own financial realities. At noon my mother arrived. She'd clearly been crying, her usual perfect appearance slightly disheveled. Why are you doing this to us? Interesting question, I replied. Why did you do what you did last night? We were trying to help you, to motivate you to do better, by telling me I was too poor for my own family, by excluding me from events at my own property. Diana displayed the family's complete financial picture on the screen. My mother stared at it, seeing for the first time the true state of our family's empire, built on debt, maintained by lies, and now crumbling under its own weight. All these years, she whispered, while we were looking down on you, you were living on borrowed money and borrowed time. I softened my tone slightly. The house staff you can't afford, the cars you lease to impress people you don't like, the vacations you charge to cards you can't pay off. What was it all for? Status, she said quietly. Appearances, showing everyone that the Sullivans were elite. And now? She looked up, tears in her eyes. Now we're dependent on the son we demeaned. The son I tried to exclude from Christmas dinner. No, I corrected her. Now you're facing reality. Everyone has a choice. Adapt to the new normal or lose everything. What's the new normal? I outlined the terms. Reasonable living allowances, mandatory financial counseling, real jobs for those who'd been playing at business, and most importantly, a complete reset of family dynamics. The holiday retreat is canceled, I added. Instead, the family will attend financial literacy workshops. Those who want to stay involved with family businesses will start with entry-level positions. It will destroy our reputation. Your reputation is already destroyed. You just don't know it yet because I've been hiding the evidence. I showed her the society pages I'd been suppressing. Articles about the family's financial troubles that would run if I stopped intercepting them. By late afternoon, Diana had collected signatures on all the contracts. The family's assets were now under Summit Technologies management, their debts restructured, their spending controlled. Sir, Diana reported, your brother Michael is still in the building lobby, requesting another meeting. I checked the security feed. He looked different, his expensive suit replaced by casual clothes, his arrogant posture gone. Send him up. Michael entered quietly, nothing like his usual bombastic self. The SEC files, he said without preamble. How long have you known about your illegal trades? 3 years. I've been cleaning up your messes, covering your tracks, protecting you from yourself. He sat heavily in a chair. Why didn't you stop me sooner? Would you have listened? Yesterday you thought I was a nobody who fixed computers. Yesterday I was an idiot. He looked up, meeting my eyes. I want to learn, really learn, not just fake it like we've all been doing. It was the first genuine thing I'd heard from any family member all day. There's an entry-level position in Summit's risk management department, 60 hours a week, strict supervision, no shortcuts. When can I start? Perhaps there was hope after all. As the sun set on the day after Christmas, I stood at my office window, watching the city lights come on. Diana brought in the final reports. All family credit cards canceled, accounts transferred, assets secured. Your mother left this, she said, handing me an envelope. Inside was a photo from 20 years ago. Me at my first computer club competition, holding a trophy. I remembered that day. Nobody from the family had attended, deeming it too beneath them. A note fell out. I'm sorry we never saw you. I'm sorry we valued appearance over reality. I'm sorry it took losing everything to recognize what you built while we weren't watching. Mom, Diana, I said, schedule a family dinner for next week. A simple one. No crystal, no showing off, just family. Are you sure, sir? I looked at the photo again. Yes, but this time we'll do it on my terms. Real terms. And the tissues, keep them handy. Reality isn't finished with the Sullivans yet. 1 week after the Christmas confrontation, I stood in my penthouse kitchen watching my personal chef prepare a decidedly modest family dinner. No imported caviar or champagne this time, just good honest food that nobody would photograph for social media. Sir, Diana called from the living room. Your first guests are arriving. Victoria entered first, and I almost didn't recognize her. Gone were the designer labels and excessive jewelry. She wore simple business attire, her hair pulled back practically. Day 3 as a junior buyer's assistant, she said, answering my unasked question. I actually had to make my own coffee. And you know what? It didn't kill me. How's reality treating you? She paused, choosing her words carefully, humbling, but also kind of refreshing. Yesterday I learned more about fabric sourcing than I did in 3 years of pretending to run my own label. Michael arrived next, carrying a folder of documents. The risk management team is brutal, he said, loosening his tie. They fact-check everything. No shortcuts, no smooth talking. I had to redo my first analysis report 4 times. Because it was wrong? I asked. Because it was superficial. Like everything I used to do. He shook his head. They don't care about my last name, or my golf handicap. They only care if the numbers are right. Our parents arrived last. Mom wore a simple dress that probably cost less than her usual makeup budget. Dad looked smaller somehow, but more genuine without the weight of pretense. The house staff is gone, Mom said quietly. I cleaned my own bathroom yesterday. First time in 20 years. How did that feel? Like growing up, very late growing up. We gathered around my dining table. No crystal, no silver, just simple settings and honest food. The silence was awkward at first, a family unused to being real with each other. I sold my watches, Dad finally said. All of them. Turns out I only need one, and it doesn't have to cost more than a car to tell time. Diana appeared briefly to place a folder beside my plate. The latest family financial report. I opened it, scanning the numbers as my family tried not to look too anxious. Victoria, I said, your credit card spending is down 98% this week. She nodded. Turns out meal prepping is cheaper than restaurants, and my apartment's rent was ridiculous. So I'm moving to a normal place next month. Michael, clean trading record this week. Small volumes, everything documented. My supervisor only yelled at me twice. That's an improvement, I noted. He yelled at you hourly last week. Mom reached into her non-designer purse and pulled out a notebook. I've been tracking our actual expenses. Without the staff, the shopping, the events, we could live comfortably on a quarter of what we spent before. Speaking of events, Dad added, I canceled our country club membership. Turns out golf is just as challenging at the public course, and they don't care what brand your clubs are. The chef served our main course, a perfectly prepared but unpretentious meal. No one reached for their phones to photograph it. I have an announcement, I said as we ate. The New Year's retreat is still canceled. We know, Victoria sighed. Financial literacy workshops instead. No, I looked around the table. Instead, we're going to volunteer at a local shelter. All of us, for the whole week. The old family would have erupted in protests and excuses. This new humbled version just nodded. It's time we learned what real value looks like. I continued. Not the value of things, but of actions. The social pages will talk, Mom said quietly. Let them. We're done performing for an audience. Michael leaned forward. The risk management team, they don't know I'm your brother. They're treating me like any other junior analyst. It's the first time in my life I'm earning something on my own merit. That's the point, I replied. Everything before was borrowed or bought. Now you're building something real. Victoria wiped her eyes. I was so awful to you. We all were, all those years, looking down on you while you were quietly building an empire. An empire built on work, not appearance, Dad mused. We taught them all wrong, didn't we? He said to Mom. We taught them what we knew, she replied. But James learned something better on his own. Diana appeared again, placing a small box on the table. Inside were new business cards for each family member. Entry-level positions, no fancy titles. Your new identities, I explained. Real jobs, real responsibilities, real consequences. No special treatment, no family shortcuts. They each took their cards, studying the modest titles that replaced their former grandiose ones. One more thing, I added. Diana has scheduled mandatory family dinner every Sunday. Simple food, honest conversation, no pretenses. And if we slip back into old habits, Michael asked, then you lose your positions, your restructured debt agreements, and your chance to build something real. The rest of dinner passed with conversation about actual work, actual challenges, and actual growth. No one bragged, no one pretended, no one tried to impress. As they were leaving, Mom hugged me. A real hug, not the air kiss she used to give for show. You were never too poor for this family, she whispered. We were too poor in spirit to see your real wealth. After they left, Diana brought me the final reports of the day. Sir, the family's total spending is down 95%. All assigned tasks completed properly. No attempts to circumvent the new systems. She paused, and Miss Victoria's Instagram account has been deleted. Progress, I smiled. Real progress. Looking out over the city lights, I thought about wealth, not the kind that bought crystal and watches, but the kind that bought wisdom and growth. Sometimes the richest moments come when you lose everything you thought mattered and find what actually does. Diana, I called out. Schedule the next family dinner. And this time, I'll cook. You cook, sir? No, but I'll learn. It's time we all learned new things. 6 months after that fateful Christmas dinner, I sat reviewing the family's transformation reports. Diana had compiled them into a simple presentation, free from the artificial gloss that once characterized everything our family did. Victoria, now a full buyer's assistant, earned her first promotion based purely on merit. Her Instagram followers dropped from 500,000 bot accounts to 847 real ones, mostly industry professionals, who appreciated her honest posts about learning the business from scratch. Michael successfully completed his probationary period in risk management. His supervisor's note read, finally showing real analytical skills, has stopped mentioning his last name entirely. Mom volunteering 3 days a week at the shelter where we'd spent New Year's. She'd found a talent for helping other families navigate financial difficulties, sharing her hard-learned lessons about appearance versus reality. Dad, working as a junior advisor, under strict supervision, rebuilding his reputation through careful ethical decisions rather than grand promises. The family mansion had been sold, replaced by reasonable homes they could actually afford. The society pages had run their stories about the Sullivan family's downfall, but the coverage fizzled when they realized there was no scandal, just quiet transformation. Sir, Diana interrupted my reading. Your mother is here for her scheduled meeting. Mom entered carrying a folder of her own mite, a habit she'd picked up from her financial literacy classes. No designer bag, no excessive jewelry, just a woman who had finally found her authentic self. The shelter needs funding for their education program, she said without preamble. I've prepared a proper proposal, with budgets and expected outcomes. I took the folder, noting the careful analysis and realistic numbers. This is thorough. I learned from watching you. Building something real requires real work. She paused. We're also teaching financial literacy classes there now, helping other families avoid our mistakes. How does it feel, being on the giving end of help, rather than the spending end of status?
Oh,
It feels, she searched for the word, sustainable, like something that can last because it's built on truth. My phone buzzed with a message from Victoria. Client loved my sourcing recommendations, based on actual market research, not what I thought would impress people. Who knew? Another message followed from Michael. Team lead asked me to check someone else's work, said I have unexpected attention to detail. Had to leave the room to cry a little. They're really changing, Mom said, reading the messages over my shoulder. We all are. The quarterly family financial review is tomorrow, I reminded her. Everyone ready. Actual numbers, actual progress, actual results. She smiled. No more smoke and mirrors. The next day, the family gathered in a standard conference room. No mahogany tables or elaborate decorations. Victoria brought coffee for everyone, made by her own hands. Michael carried a stack of properly analyzed reports. Dad wore a regular suit that actually fit his budget. Diana presented the 6-month progress report. Combined family debt, reduced by 60%, sustainable spending patterns, established all members employed in merit-based positions, no attempts to leverage the family name, real estate holdings adjusted to actual means, social media presence, transformed from show to substance. There's something else, I announced. The shelter's education program. It's been funded, but not by me. I displayed the donor list. Every family member had contributed what they actually could afford. Small amounts that came from earned income, rather than borrowed status.
it's a
We did that, Victoria said wonderingly. With money we actually earned. Which matters more? I asked. The size of the donation that comes from debt, or the integrity of giving what you've truly earned. 6 months ago, I wouldn't have understood the question. Michael admitted. Now I can't believe I ever thought the other way. Dad stood up, straightening papers that didn't need straightening. Son, when you revealed everything last Christmas, I thought you were destroying our family. Instead, you gave us something we never had. What's that? Authenticity, Mom answered. The freedom to be who we are, not who we thought we needed to pretend to be. The meeting concluded with real projections for the next quarter. Orn's conservative, achievable goals, based on actual work, rather than magical thinking. As they left each to their earned positions and right-sized lives, I felt a quiet pride. Diana brought in one final report, the latest society page mention of our family. It was small, just a note about the shelter's new education program, and the Sullivan family's involvement. No artificial glamour, no inflated importance, just the simple truth of people doing good work. Sir, Diana said, your sister asked about the New Year's retreat, and she suggested using the budget to expand the shelter's programs instead. I smiled. Some transformations run deeper than balance sheets and credit scores. Sometimes the greatest wealth is finding your true value, stripped of pretense and built on reality. Diana scheduled a family dinner at the shelter. We're cooking for the residents. All of you, cooking. We've learned how to do real things. Now it's time to do them for others. Looking out at the city, I saw it differently now, not as a showcase for wealth, but as a community where real value could be built, one authentic action at a time. The Sullivan family had lost their artificial empire, but they'd gained something far more valuable, the wealth of being real.